running for Congress as well. And I'm not running as a Democrat, I'm running as a Green. And I'll explain why in a moment, because that is a frequent question. But I will also say first and foremost, thank you so very much for inviting me here. I think the relationship between the Green Party and the Democratic Party is the one that suffers the most out of all of the political parties, and that's because of 2000. So rather than shy away from that or be awkward about it, I'm going to talk right to you about it. I'm going to tell you that Ralph Nader is a personal friend of mine. I'm going to tell you that I love him, that I think he's an amazing progressive hero. I'm not saying that so that you think that's what drives me or that's what drives Greens. There are many Greens who don't believe that about Ralph. I believe that because I've walked next to Ralph and his sister through Winstead, Connecticut, to their house, which needs a paint job, where they've lived all their lives. It's a simple, lower middle class home. I have talked to a man who has spent his entire adult life working on behalf of the working class on progressive legislation, environmental legislation, that no Democrat and no Republican has put through. He's put through more legislation through Congress than any sitting president. And what happened in 2000 is Democrats, and I have been one. I was one when I was a child. I am from a Democratic household. You know, we definitely lean to the left, as the left existed pre-Bill Clinton. The real left. We wanted progressive agenda. Corporate politics, as brought in by Bill Clinton, has ended that, from my perspective, within your party. So your welcoming me here to speak is not welcoming any man. I am a friend of every single one of your issues. And I'm the only friend you actually have in this race, I believe. That's for you all to decide, certainly. But what I can say to you is this. I was born in this district. I was raised in this district. I started a business with my brother in this district that I still run. I employ 32 people. My son was raised in this district. He played hockey, Queensbury varsity hockey, in this district. He went to school at SUNY Canton. He learned how to be an auto mechanic because we're working class people. That's not what he's doing now. He's got a much better job than I have, as a matter of fact. But the bottom line is, those issues are what matter. Where you are from matters. I've run a cafe for the last 15 years in downtown Glens Falls, at which I have met thousands of people. And I promise you, many of them were Democrats. Many were Republicans, Tea Partiers, Constitution people, Libertarians, Greens, people who are completely independent. And what I've realized is when you are not at a political meeting, people can talk like grown-ups with each other about issues. We can have a conversation about some of these really important issues. The primary one for me, as somebody who lives, I choose a working class life. There was 1 year out of the 28 years I owned my own business that I attempted to be a robber grader. I decided, the heck with it, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to make $75,000 or $80,000 a year, which for me would have been a ton. And I'm going to have the health insurance I want. I'm going to buy a motorboat. I'm going to live in a home that's paid for. I'm going to give this a shot. Everybody else is going to suffer. I'm going to be okay. And it took me about 6 weeks to figure out that this was a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake. And that my natural inclination is to be generous, is to share with everybody else who's with me. I had always shared the work. It doesn't ever seem right to me to not also share the result of all of that work. That's something I learned geographically here, in this congressional district, in this place that is at the base of the mountains, because I am from the southern tip of this congressional district. It is not in the Adirondack Mountains. But I played in the hills in Wilton, where my father and my stepmother, who are here right now, had a farm when I was a child for many years, until I was 12 or 13. This is my home. And I know the people who live in my home around me. And I know that those people are all also generous. We're all cantankerous. We all get in arguments sometimes with each other about issues. But at the end of the day, as I said to Alan Chartock in our congressional corner this past week, we stop wanting to beat each other up when winter comes. And we share a fire. And it speaks to a rugged individualism and a concern and a real altruism that I know exists here. I see it every single day. I don't see it in our politics at all. I see our politics as referenced by the last several congressional races, including the one in 2014 that I was in, are all about corporate money. They are about bringing in millions of dollars. We all know here, under this gazebo, that the millions of dollars are coming in from Carl Rove and from the Singer PAC, from Paul Ryan, to put Elise Stefanik back in office. I will say right here publicly with both of these buttons on that I like Elise as a person, as little as I know her from running against her last time around. And the bottom line is she's a human being. What's she doing in our congressional seat is my question. And it's a totally separate question. What is she doing for any of us at all? Does anybody have a positive answer? We were thinking about that on the ride over here, and my friend John, one of the many volunteers who's working on our campaign, and Jeremy as well, we do not have paid staff. I am not paid. Nobody's paid. We are basically running a campaign on as little money as we possibly can. Bottom line is it worked out very well for us in the last election cycle. I think we actually are going to do quite well in this one too, without spending all that money. John said to me, what about the Lyme disease program that Stefanik has championed? I mean, why is not every issue taken that way? Lyme disease is something that impacts us all around the district. Everybody knows somebody with Lyme. Everybody knows somebody who's gone through all the horrific diagnosis, the medications, the debilitating effects of this disease. And is it something the government could do something about? Sure, we could fund research. We could find a cure for Lyme if we wanted to. Why can't we fix the same thing when it comes to single-payer healthcare, or empire, or the drug war, or mass incarceration, or unemployment, or racism, violence? Why do we not treat these issues like this? And the answer is always because there's money to be made by propagating these false systems that have been set up solely for corporate profit. So my theory, as a human being from this district who does share firewood and also does occasionally want to beat somebody up during the day, is that why are we not talking about all these issues with the same concern we have for Lyme disease or for the firewood? I am for single-payer healthcare. I'm not for the Senate bill that was put out, although I would certainly pass it if I was in the Senate, because there is nothing else there. I'm for HR 676, which is a congressional bill Dennis Kucinich put forward many years ago with a number of other sponsors, pretty much all of whom had a real tough time surviving your party after admitting that they wanted something for the working class of this country. Dennis is a great example. Look what happened to him. Read the history of it. This is what you do when somebody says, I want to do something really great that's going to help everybody out. Greens don't have the same shot. There is no big pharmaceutical company, there's no hospital, there's no economic development that results in a pharmaceutical company making profit that is going to run my campaign for me. They're also not going to give me a big check. I won't take it. Greens are building a party that does not take corporate money. Period. Our candidates don't take corporate money. If you want to fight corruption with this one issue, that's also going to fight corruption with every other issue too. And Democrats are the natural place to start, because many of you understand lesser evilism. To come full circle to the 2000 election. In 2000, Ralph Nader dared to run for president with this unheard of party nobody really knew about except a couple percentage points who were paying some real deep attention. And he got 2.7% of the vote. And in Florida, we all know the story. Ralph cost the United States several trillion dollars, is what it will balance out to eventually, but he cost us our souls. He destroyed our country entirely, because he caused George Bush to become elected. That's the mythology I've been working with or against for the last 16 years, because that's a complete lie. That's not the truth at all. What happened was Al Gore was such an uninspiring candidate that 10 million enrolled Democrats voted for George Bush. I don't blame Democrats for that. I just say, please don't blame the greatest progressive hero we've had, perhaps, in my lifetime, for 536 votes in Florida. Clean up your own house first. When you redistrict Dennis Kucinich and you make sure Bill Clinton goes around with his opponent to make sure he's defeated in this congressional race, you're not supporting the progressives. That's why they can't survive in the party. That's why I'm not running as a Democrat. I was asked to. I was told you could really win. It wouldn't be winning. If I win with corporate money, I wouldn't be winning. I would also not be representing you. And that's what I seek to do. As a resident and as somebody who is a working class human being, I want to represent you. I want us to have single payer health care. I want us to cull back a little bit on the 900 military bases we have all around the world, many of whom are not welcome there. Having armed troops in somebody's backyard is an act of war. How many countries really want us? That's something we need to talk about. If we're going to have a Pax Americana and say that the United States gets to decide how everybody in the world lives, or we will economically and militarily destroy or manipulate, we are not being honest. We're not being shamed. I would like us to be shamed. If we're going to be gunslingers, let's do it with some moral integrity. What we ask the kids I employ when they come back from Afghanistan and Iraq to do is wrong. Not always, but most of the time. It's a horrific situation in Fulton. And it's got to stop. If you don't elect people who are going to talk about this on the floor, in Congress, in the media, and how many of those people, how many of the 535 who are elected today are millionaires, and mostly because they're corporate lobbyists. That's their goal. They want to segue into a real nice life with some money coming in from a big pharma company or Lockheed Martin, nice big defense contractor. How many of them are wonderful human beings really inside here who want to fight for all of you because they are one of you? All I will say to you is I am one of you. I actually am. I'm not saying that in word and being us. I'm saying it like Matt Funiciello. I am your kids. I'm your grandkids. If you want them to have a living wage, if you want there ever to be peace, when we have an opportunity to vote for somebody who is not a corporate candidate, don't we owe it to ourselves to do that? Because how often does it happen? I'll promise you, you can look at every congressional race around the country. There are very few where there's a Green or a Libertarian or an Independent running against two candidates from the corporate parties who are fairly well money, not with your grassroots donations either. And ask yourself, isn't this the place to do it? In 1856, this was the place. Our CPs in Plattsburgh and Watertown elected the first anti-slavery candidates of a little third party that's now unfortunately known as the Republican Party. We can do it again. It won't be the Republican Party this time. It'll be a party that wants you to have all of the things that you need. It wants everyone to thrive. It is you. We all do need to become Greens. That's the overreaching goal. So that we are all trying to do what's right for all of us. That there isn't an us and they anymore. I would just ask you to join me in that vision. I can't thank you enough for inviting me here tonight. It is a big deal. I've spoken to people from Tea Party groups and Republican groups. I've spoken to people who are independent, who have a very focused single issue. I've talked to a lot of green groups. I've talked to a lot of environmental groups. This is the first time I've been invited to speak at a Democratic meeting of any kind. And I think you're very brave to do that. And I think a lot of that comes with you're in Fulton and Montgomery and who's paying your attention. Boston Spa is where my father was born and raised. And Gloversville is where my mother was born and raised. My grandfather was a Glover. My grandmother was a Glover for a while as well. This is my home. And I want to help us make it a place not only that will be preserved, but together. I want to make our country a better place too. And it does need to be better. We can do a better job all the way around. And you all know that because you're politically active. And as a reward, it's not. I would like very much for you all to have some bread. I brought bread from my bakery. We bake this in South Glens Falls, New York. It is made by hand. Much of it is made with wheat from Watertown, New York. We use a lot of local ingredients. That is one of them. The whole wheat flour and the unbleached white flour right now are coming from North Country Farms. We also have lawn signs and various other paraphernalia. But the bread, please come and take some home with you and enjoy it. That would give me a great pleasure. I thank you again for your invitation. If you have anything you want to ask me, I believe that, was it Chad? There is another
Yeah,
gentleman
there's
who's
another speaker.
going to speak first. So I will get out of your way, and if you have any questions afterwards, please, I would love to answer. Thank you.